Sawyer, can you stand up and face me?
War drum.
Alright, good. Stop it.
I was wondering, first of all, how you guys feel about the event last night, because I spent a little bit of time talking to other people that attended, trying to get, I got a lot of different kind of vibes. I think there were different reasons people were there and like different things people were looking to get out of it. But I was really wondering what you two got out of it. Like, what was it like seeing all these people come from all over the place to hear what you guys had to say and to, you know, hear you talk about these ideas that you have?
So, you want to go first?
Okay.
Go for it. Oh, yeah.
You got something to say right away? Yeah,
I felt pretty good about it. It was actually really, it seemed positive, and after it was over, I mean, it was draining, for sure, being in front of that many people, but it also, like, kind of energized me. Like, I felt like the energy at the museum and then also at the actual venue was very uplifting and invigorating. Like, it gave me like a boost, and it was cool just being able to express ourselves in the videos that were played, and the questions that were asked. We hadn't been asked questions like that before from the interviewer. I mean, there's the standard questions of, you know, how did you guys meet and how did you come to believe this, and those things, which are important for interviews to, you know, people who've not heard that story yet. But it was nice, the, like, more philosophical questions that he asked us. And the question that you asked us kind of, you know, we saw that it stumped us, and we were like, huh? So, but it was good. Everybody seemed positive, and yeah, I felt pretty good about it. We were keyed up. We didn't go to sleep until almost 2, I think, afterwards. And we were just kind of processing. We're still kind of processing it.
Okay.
Yes, after the museum event, which I was pretty surprised with the turnout. Ryan didn't think there was going to be many people there at all, but his expectations were, I guess, higher in that regard than mine. I didn't really have any expectations. I thought, you know, 2 people could show up, or you know, I didn't know, and I was nervous in some ways because of, you know, knowing that we were going to play Those Final Exit video, which is a very challenging video to listen to, because he's telling it like it is, and he's talking about leaving this world, leaving our physical bodies, but he's also including the recognition that we always talk about it in the live stream, that it's not about dying, it's not about death. That doesn't get you anywhere unless you know you've got a connection with the shepherd, and to have a connection with the shepherd isn't something that is just going to happen overnight, and it takes, you know, a study of the information to see if you really believe it, and that we need these vehicles in order to learn lessons and have experiences in order to, you know, overcome our humanness by our own desire. And so I was, you know, I was dealing with not playing Those Final Exit video, but then when it was playing, I thought, yes, this is the right thing to happen. See, the thing that happens is that we get bombarded by the negative influences.
We noticed I noticed people getting up and leaving while Doe was talking, so that was kind of like that was their cutoff. Like, I thought you paid, you know, X amount of money to come to the event, and you're only going to stay for a little bit. But then once you started talking, they were just like, nope, I'm out.
Leaving and not coming back, or
yeah, okay. I noticed a couple of people.
Yeah, I was concerned about that also. I mean, not the people leaving, but I'm not used to people paying a lot of money to come to an event where I'm talking and stuff. You know, I just, you know, I put a lot of value on, you know, $40 or $50 or $60 or $80 for some people were paying, I think, for that. And I want people to be able to, you know, hear this information for nothing. So I was concerned ahead of time, like, gosh, is the music program going to be good enough, you know? Because, you know, I want to try to give people something that they would feel valuable. And I thought the slideshow was carrying on too long, and it was actually. It did go on a little longer than it was planned. But at the same time,
Nobody got up and left during that.
No, I liked being able to show those images and talk about why I was showing those images, whether it was outer space or comets or even the Dr. Little Green images from the Transfiguration Diet book, and giving little explanations about them. But I think I enjoyed the question and answer time kind of the best. I like the format of, you know, like the chat kind of thing, you know, talking about things and addressing his questions were good. And so I enjoyed that. And the musical performance, I mean, my part of it, I enjoyed that. And that individual Andrew, that was impromptu, you know, and he's a good musician, so he was able to just put things with what I did, and I really, you know, that was a lot of fun.
Some of your videos too, and you did a little bit last night. You'll kind of interject every once in a while and start kind of doing almost like a spoken word kind of thing. Is that just kind of stream of consciousness, or is that stuff you've prepared ahead of time?
No, I don't really prepare ahead of time, except for the talk about the UFO sighting. I don't know how much that came across clearly, the words of it. I was a little bit concerned whether, you know, there's too much music imbalance to the talking.
It was a little hard to hear. I knew what the words were.
It was hard to hear, yeah.
I understand what you were saying.
And the microphone kept on falling down.
Because you, like, grab it, do the harmonica
I wasn't even grabbing it sometimes. I was up against it, you know, sometimes. I don't know.
You play hard.
Got to the museum and I walked up the stairs and I met you for the first time.
You were the first one in too.
Oh, was I?
You were.
Okay.
You sure were.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to be standing right there, and it was just like, oh hey, I'm Sawyer, I'm Matt, you know. You introduced yourself as Stephen first, I think, and then you said.
Yeah, I just that's my birth name, so I use that. You know, I don't normally just say to people, no, I'm Sawyer.
Gotcha.
Because I'm not trying to. Maybe I should. Maybe it would be good, because I do want people to. I mean, I don't want the recognition personally, because I really don't get off on it. But I do respect that I've been used, you know, to be a face for T&O in a lot of different documentaries, and that people don't know, you know, what I'm like in personally. And so, you know, if using that name would help say, oh, Sawyer, is that from, you know, if that would stimulate that thinking, that's the reason we wear shirts. Because we like people to, you know, to look at it and say, oh, that's an interesting shirt. What is, you know, where's that from or whatever, you know. Well, that's an interesting thought. What if they were right?
They definitely notice, whether they say anything or not. But people
Yeah.
do. They're like, oh, what if they were right? It's like, sweet, you're going to go look something up later.
What were you kind of thinking when, like, before people started coming into that room, when the two of you were just upstairs in the museum? What was going through your minds? Were you like, I can't wait for this to start, or were you thinking like, let's just bail, or what was going through your minds in that moment?
No, I never ever felt like I wanted to bail. No, I would never think that. I mean, even if I thought that, I wouldn't certainly listen to those things. But 'cause I'm committed to what we're doing, and but I was a bit freaked out by coming up to the spot there where he's got the monitor playing with Dotar. Right next to it, all about Jim Jones. And then to the other side of the wall, across from the door, all about Charles Manson and other people, you know, showing pictures of dead bodies. With, oh, jeez! And I was thinking, this is bizarre. I can't see the, you know, Tiendo in this setting of horror. It's really not appropriate. But at the same time, yes, it's a traumatic event that they laid down their vehicles, you know, and for various reasons, but to make an impression that would be long-lasting.
You're not planning to exit your vehicle at some point, like by your own hands.
We don't advocate anybody else doing that either.
Do you guys notice that there are differences, that different things that draw people to Heaven's Gate? And is there any particular thing that you would like people to be more focused on or less focused on, or does it not matter?
I'd like them to be more focused on what they actually believed, as opposed to the way that they left.
I thought of that question actually while I was looking at some of the pins that they were selling. There was one that was shaped like one of the bodies or vehicles with the shroud on it, and I was wondering if you guys had any. Do you feel one way or the other about that sort of thing?
I think we both kind of feel the same, that like the away team patches are kind of in poor taste. You know, that was just for the group, but everybody loves those. Like they said like thousands of them. Like that's one of their best sellers. But when they were going through all their merchandise, and because they do several things, and they were showing us all the pins and the stickers and the buttons. When he came across that one, he was like, we shouldn't have done this one. He's like, he didn't even really care for it. I personally think whatever draws people in.
The thing that drew me in, if I'm being honest, is kind of what you mentioned with the language stuff. The weird thing about Heaven's Gate, from my perspective, is there's this, there's this sense that there's a need to change the words we use in order to kind of disassociate from identifying with the body. But then, on the other hand, the Heaven's Gate group seemed, when you start to look into the history, they seemed to be really desperate to communicate as effectively as they possibly could. Like, they seemed to really care about whether or not their message was being properly understood. That, to me, is something that I think every person shares, whatever they believe, is this need to, like, communicate and be understood. And with their final act in 1997, the way I looked at it is that was kind of their last communication. Like, this was the last message, and because they knew they wouldn't be around to talk anymore, so they had to leave this, like, kind of statement in symbols and images and stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. They were very particular about every word they used. You know, and I witnessed that while I was in the group when we were designing documents. You know, we had a task a number of times over the years to write. We had our own book we were writing, each of us, and that lasted for a while, and then they discontinued doing it. But the reason why we were writing was to deposit those thoughts into the ether. By our thoughts, you know, we are actually projecting ideas that other people can pick up on, and also leaving behind that information potentially. Even though, see, T&O didn't do things in what might be considered to be a logical human reasoning. So they would check with their older member, and they were working, when they were working together, both in the vehicles, you know, T&O, they would talk with each other about what they were feeling, or what they were perceiving was coming in, and to check it, to see whether it was coming from their older member, because they didn't have. That's the way they do it. It's like two people being. Well, radio waves it's a form of communication that they're using, and between the next level and with us. You know, a spectrum, part of the spectrum that we don't know how to identify, and you know, and do anything to it, so that they can have a clear communication. But since it's coming into human vehicles, they don't trust that they're getting it right, and so they go through a whole bunch of what they would say were checks and balances in their heads to determine everything they knew, whether this is actually coming from their older members that were outside their vehicles. Everything was, how did it feel?
What does it feel like when something feels right?
Well, for me, it's you just know. I mean, I don't know, you just know. Like, I know for a fact that there's ground right in front of us, right? I know that's a path that leads back to the camp, right? I know that for a fact. When I was listening to the first Beyond Human, I knew that what he was saying was true. I just knew that for a fact. I can't explain, like, why I thought that. Like, when I knew that I had to go meet Sawyer in person, I knew that I had to do that. Just like you knew that you had to come down to this event.
I was just
thinking.
Yeah.
I knew you were, see?
Right. It doesn't work that way a lot of times.
I picked up that thought from you. But Sawyer said when you came around, he was like, I know this guy.
Yeah, that was, I think, the first,
like
after you introduced yourself to me, we shook hands. Yeah, I think you said, you look familiar, or I feel like we've met before, or something. Which was...
It's just a knowing.
There was a really, special moment, I feel like we got to see, like, at Grave Face, when, I think it was towards the end, where you were talking, and Cathy pointed out that they were playing one of the videos where you were one of the students that Doe was talking to, and you kind of looked down at the screen and saw, like, yourself from, what's that, 94? 92. So a younger you, and you kind of had this really big smile, and you're kind of looking down, like, what was going through your minds, like, in that moment, or what were you feeling?
Well, I guess part of me is thinking that I was right there, and I didn't pass that grade. You know, it's like I didn't complete that task. But at the same time, I think I needed the experiences that I'm having. And so the idea of, you know, laying down our vehicles was something that, like, I almost wanted to do that, to prove to the next level that I was 100% committed. But what actually the next level wanted me to do was to learn the lessons I had instead of trying to appear to be 100% committed, to just be 100% committed to the lessons I was given. I mean, T gave me 3 things that would keep me off the spacecraft, she told me. She said that I was a little too pleased with myself, and I'd like to be seen as something special, and that I was sarcastic with humans.
Those aren't 3 things that come to mind just having met you over the last couple of days.
They are influences. They're not me. They're not the mind that I have brought into this vehicle from my older members. But they are, they do surface at times. Because he didn't say that there was anything wrong with being pleased with yourself, but a little too pleased with yourself. The particular words are very important. Like everything is a path to the top of the mountain, so to speak. But it's a path. If you stay at one spot in that path and you don't keep on climbing, then you never get to the top of the mountain. And then when you get to the top of the mountain, you can also be satisfied with that and not be open to
getting off.
What's the purpose of this? I mean, you know, it's like, look at the stars out there, and look at what's going on. There's a lot happening that we don't have any idea of.